My ex wants to talk privately, she said. You don't need to worry. She was right. I didn't worry. I packed. When she came back from her private talk, I was gone. She called asking what happened. I said, we don't need to talk. And you don't need to worry. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The pasta water was just coming to a boil when I heard her phone buzz for the third time in 10 minutes. A familiar, dissonant chime that had started to feel like a guest overstaying its welcome. I gave the sauce a stir, a arrabbiata, her favorite, and pushed the feeling down. Trust isn't a sometimes thing. It's an always thing. That's what I'd always believed. I was fixing the loose hinge on her laptop earlier that afternoon. That was me, in a nutshell. I fixed things. I built things. I showed up. For 2 years, I'd shown up for Sarah. I'd held her hair back when she was sick, celebrated her promotions with cheap champagne, and memorized the way she liked her coffee. 2 sugars, a splash of oat milk, no need to ask anymore. We were talking about getting a dog, for God's sake. I was all in. She was curled on the sofa, thumb flying across her screen, a tiny frown of concentration on her face. It was the same frown she got when reading a complicated article or trying to beat my score in a stupid mobile game. But this felt different. The energy was all wrong. Everything okay? I asked, wiping my hands on a towel. She looked up, her eyes taking a second to focus on me, as if she'd been in another room entirely. Oh, yeah, it's just Mark. The name landed in the cozy room like a shard of ice. Mark, the ex, the one from before me, the one with the flashy job and the reputation for being emotionally unavailable, which of course, she'd seen as a challenge. The one who had drifted in and out of her DMs for months, a ghost I'd been told not to worry about. Mark, I repeated, my voice neutral. What's up with him? She let out a sigh, a performance of weariness. He's just a mess. His mom is in the hospital, apparently. He's really torn up about it. Says he has no one else to talk to. A warning bell, faint but persistent, began to ring in the back of my mind. That's tough, I said carefully. But he has friends, family, right? You know Mark, she said, with a wave of her hand, as if that explained everything. He builds walls. He's not good at asking for help. He just called. He asked if he could pick me up, just for an hour. To talk. Privately. The word hung in the air between us. Privately. It wasn't just a word. It was a door, and she was deliberately closing it in my face. I felt my stomach tighten. He wants to pick you up? And go where? Why can't he talk on the phone? Her face hardened instantly. The concern for Mark melted away, replaced by impatience with me. Oh, don't give me that look, Alex. It's not like that. You have nothing to worry about. His mom is sick. He's hurting. I'm not giving a look, I said, keeping my voice even, though it felt like a cage was tightening around my ribs. I'm asking a question. My girlfriend is being asked to get into a car alone with her ex-boyfriend for a private talk. I think that's a fair question. God, why are you being like this? She stood up, her posture defensive. It's just a conversation. I can't just abandon a person in need. It's who I am. I thought you loved that about me. She was using her own empathy as a weapon, and it was a brutal one. I do love that about you, I said, and I meant it. But I also love us. And this feels like it crosses a line. I need you to be secure enough to trust me. She fired back, her voice sharp. She was putting on her jacket now, the decision already made. If you can't do that, then maybe that's a you problem. A you problem. The ultimate modern dismissal. She wasn't just choosing to go. She was reframing my completely valid unease as a character flaw. In that moment, something inside me broke. Not with a scream, but with a quiet, final snap. I looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman I'd imagined a future with. She was so convinced of her own righteousness, so utterly dismissive of my feelings. She wasn't choosing between me and Mark. She was choosing between my peace of mind and her own selfish desire to be someone's savior. And I knew, with a clarity that was as cold as it was absolute, that I was done. Okay, I said, my voice strangely calm. If that's what you need to do. She mistook my calm for surrender. She walked over and gave me a quick, patronizing peck on the cheek. I'll be back in an hour. Don't let the sauce burn. And then she was gone. The door clicked shut. The apartment was silent, save for the frantic bubbling of the boiling water. I stood there for a full minute, just breathing. The anger didn't come. The sadness didn't come. All that was left was that chilling, pristine clarity. She was right, I thought, turning off the burner. The sudden silence was deafening. I don't need to worry. Worrying is for something you might lose. I walked to the hall closet and pulled out my large duffel bag and the suitcase I used for work trips. I started in the bedroom. I took my clothes from the dresser, from my side of the closet. I left the sweater she'd bought me for Christmas. I emptied my toiletries from the bathroom, a collection of shared space now neatly divided into mine and hers. I was a surgeon, removing a tumor with precise, unemotional incisions. I went to the living room and unplugged my laptop, my charger, my books. I took the framed photo of us from the trip to the mountains from my nightstand. I didn't look at it. I simply placed it in the kitchen trash can, face down, burying it under the discarded packaging from the pasta. It took less than 30 minutes. I did a final walkthrough. My key to the apartment lay on the kitchen counter, next to the pot of now-cold arrabbiata. I shouldered my bags, opened the door, and stepped out into the hallway. I didn't look back. There was nothing for me there anymore. The man who worried about her, who loved her, who was fixing her laptop, he had left with her. The one who remained was someone new, and he was already free. The silence in my best friend Mike's spare room was a balm. It was clean, empty, and entirely my own. There was no lingering perfume of betrayal, no ghost of a conversation that shouldn't have happened. I sent Mike a simple text. At Sarah's. It's over. Can I crash with you for a bit? His response was immediate. Doors open. Fridge is full. Don't say another word. That was Mike. He understood that some ruptures are too deep for words. I was unpacking my duffel bag when my phone vibrated on the nightstand. Sarah. The screen glowed in the dim room. I felt nothing. Not a twinge of anger, not a flicker of sadness. It was like seeing a notification for an app I'd already deleted. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, my screen lit up again. Then a text. Sarah, 9:47 p.m., where are you? All your stuff is gone? The punctuation was off. I could picture her, standing in the middle of the apartment she had returned to, finally noticing the voids I had left behind. Sarah, 9:49 p.m., what is this? Some kind of stupid protest? Are you trying to punish me? There it was. The complete and utter failure to comprehend. In her mind, my leaving wasn't a consequence. It was a tactic, a dramatic ploy for attention. The phone rang again. This time I picked up. I said nothing. Alex? Hello? Are you there? Her voice was a mix of confusion and annoyance. What the hell is going on? I come back and it looks like you've been robbed. This is so immature. Can we just talk about this like adults? I took a slow breath, my voice flat, devoid of the heat and life she clearly expected. We don't need to talk. And you don't need to worry. I ended the call and powered off the phone. The next few days were a study in quiet reclamation. I took a personal day from work. I went for long runs until my lungs burned and my mind was blissfully empty. I bought new sheets, a new coffee maker. I was building a new ecosystem, and it was one she had no place in. When I turned my phone back on, it was to a digital tsunami of her unraveling. The first wave was manipulation. Sarah, day 2, 10:14 a.m. mark, and I just talked. It was nothing. I told him I had a boyfriend and that he needed to respect that. I miss you. I deleted it. The second wave was the partial, self-serving truth. Sarah, day 2, 6:32 p.m. Okay, I get it. You were right to be upset. He was flirty, but I shut it down. I chose you. I came home to you. She had chosen me. She had chosen to come home to an empty apartment. The irony was so thick you could taste it. I didn't reply. Then came the voicemails. The first one, her voice thick with tears. Alex, it's me. Please pick up. He's not who I thought he was. He just wanted, it doesn't matter. I made a huge mistake. A huge, stupid mistake. Please, I need you. You're my person. I saved the message. Not out of sentiment, but as a receipt. Proof of the transaction that had finally closed. The second voicemail, 2 days later, was the karma, delivered in a raw, panicked screech. He ghosted me. Can you believe that? After everything I did for him, after I poured my heart out to him because his mother was so sick, which was probably a lie. He just used me for an ego boost and disappeared. He's not answering any of my texts. I have no one. You were my rock, and I was so stupid. Please, please, just call me back. There it was. The full, pathetic circle. She had discarded a rock for a ghost, and now she was falling through the empty space between them. I felt a distant, academic pity, the kind you might feel for a character in a bad movie. It had nothing to do with me. Even her friends, her flying monkeys, were deployed. Unknown number, probably Chloe. Day 5, 8:02 p.m. Hey Alex, it's Chloe. Look, Sarah's a mess. You win, okay? You proved your point. Just call her back and stop being a dick. This is cruel. I blocked the number. Cruel would have been staying. Cruel would have been pretending I could ever look at her the same way. My silence wasn't cruelty, it was sanitation. Weeks bled into a month. The texts became less frequent, then stopped. The new life I was building had structure, routine, peace. I started going to the gym with Mike. I reconnected with friends I'd subtly neglected. The world was wider than the four walls of that apartment I'd shared with Sarah. It was a Saturday morning, 3 months to the day after I'd walked out. I was at a coffee shop downtown, a new place I'd claimed as my own. I was focused on my laptop, planning a solo camping trip, when a shadow fell over my table. I looked up. Sarah stood there. She looked diminished. The confident light in her eyes was gone, replaced by a hollow tiredness. She'd lost weight, and not in a healthy way. She was clutching her purse like a lifeline. "So this is where you've been hiding?" she said, her voice trying for sarcasm but landing on brittle. Too good to return my calls. I closed my laptop slowly. "Sarah, you just left me," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You didn't even fight for me. What kind of man does that?" The hypocrisy was so vast, it was almost impressive. "There was nothing to fight for," I said, my voice calm and even. "You made your choice clear that night. You just didn't like the consequence." Tears welled in her eyes, but now they were tears of frustration. I was vulnerable. He manipulated me. And you abandoned me when I needed you most. You were supposed to be better than that. There it was. The final, desperate rewrite of history. I was now the villain for not enduring her disrespect. I was the one who failed the test she never had the right to administer. I stood up, gathering my laptop and jacket. I looked at her, and for the first time, I let a sliver of feeling into my voice. Not anger, not nostalgia, but a simple, profound finality. "The person you're looking for? The one who would worry about you, who would wait for you, who would fight for you," I said, holding her gaze. "He doesn't live here anymore." I slung my bag over my shoulder. The peace I had cultivated was my fortress, and she was forever on the outside. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Sarah," I said, and I meant it. "But it has nothing to do with me." I turned and walked out of the coffee shop. The bell on the door chimed behind me, a sound of closure. I didn't look back. I didn't wonder what she was doing. I simply walked into the sunlight of my new life, and I never thought of her again. The silence after the coffee shop was absolute. It wasn't the silence of waiting. It was the silence of a story that had reached its final period. Sarah's number was blocked. Any messages from her friends went unread and deleted. The chapter was closed, the book shelved. In the vacuum she left, I built. I poured the energy I'd once reserved for worrying about us into my own foundation. The promotion I'd been hesitant to go for because it required more travel, I applied for it and got it. The guitar gathering dust in the corner of Mike's spare room, I started taking lessons. I wasn't running from anything. I was finally, freely, moving towards something. Myself. Mike, the eternal skeptic, watched it all over a beer one night. "Not that I'm not thrilled to have you, but when are you going to get your own place? You can afford it now." I took a sip. "I'm looking. A place with a view. Maybe a balcony." He nodded, a slow grin spreading across his face. "Good. It suits you." The calm. Calm was the word for it. It wasn't happiness, not in a frantic, temporary way. It was a deep, structural peace. The peace of not having your emotional state tied to someone else's whims. The peace of knowing your own boundaries are non-negotiable. A year bled away. I found the apartment with a balcony, overlooking the city skyline. I filled it with art I liked and furniture that was only mine. There were no ghosts in these rooms. My phone buzzed one evening. It was Chloe, Sarah's friend, from a new number. The toxicity, it seemed, was a stubborn stain. "Chloe, new number. Hey Alex. I know you hate me, but I'm just the messenger. Sarah's really not doing well. She's been through a lot. She's seeing a therapist. She says she realizes now how badly she messed up with you. She just wants to apologize, for real. For closure." I stared at the message. The manipulation was more sophisticated, but the core was the same. You are responsible for her feelings. The old me would have felt a tug of obligation. The new me saw it for what it was, emotional spam. I typed back a single sentence, the epitome of the professional archetype. Me. Thank you for the information. I wish her well in her recovery, but my position is unchanged. I then blocked that number, too. The fortress walls held. The true test came months later, an email. It landed in my professional inbox, the one she'd had to search for. Its subject line, an apology. Alex, I know you don't want to hear from me. I'm using this address because it's the only one I could find, and I need to say this without being blocked. I've spent the last year and a half in therapy, unpacking a lot of my own issues. My need for external validation, my disrespect for boundaries, my treatment of you. What I did that night was unforgivable. I was selfish, cruel, and I took the best thing in my life for granted. You were my rock, and I shattered us against a fantasy. Mark was a lie. My entire justification was a lie. I see that now with painful clarity. I am not writing this to ask for you back. I know that ship has sailed. I am writing to offer a real, no excuses apology. I was the problem. It was never a you problem. I am so deeply, truly sorry for the pain I caused you. I hope you are happy. You deserve it. Sarah, it was a good apology. A perfect one, even. It hit every note a therapist would recommend. For a moment, I held the ghost of the woman I'd loved in my mind. Then I let it go. I did not reply. Any response, even a thank you, I accept, would have been a thread, a connection. It would have given her the closure she sought, which was just another form of validation from me. My silence was the only authentic answer. It was the sound of her true and total irrelevance. I had become the vanisher. The invitation to Mike's wedding was a formal, gilded thing. His fiancée, Lena, was a force of nature, and their wedding was the social event of the season for our friend group. I was a groomsman. I knew she would be there. Sarah was still loosely connected to Lena through an old college friendship. The thought caused me no anxiety, no racing heart. It was a logistical fact, like the chance of rain. The day was pristine. As I stood at the altar next to Mike, I scanned the guests. I saw her halfway back, on the bride's side. She was wearing a bright red dress, a color that screamed for attention in a sea of pastels. She was staring straight at me. I held her gaze for a neutral second, then turned my attention back to my beaming friend, a small, genuine smile on my face. The reception was in a beautiful, open-air pavilion. I did my duties, the speech, the toasts, the dancing with the bridesmaids. I was present, happy for my friend, comfortable in my skin. I felt a tap on my shoulder as I was getting a drink at the bar. I turned. It was Sarah. Up close, the year and a half had not been kind. The hollowness was still there, masked by a layer of makeup. The red dress was too tight. Alex, she said, her voice a little too loud. You look good. Thank you, Sarah, I said, my tone the same I'd use with a colleague. Polite. Distant. It's a beautiful wedding. Can we talk? For just a minute? Please. The desperation was poorly concealed beneath a veneer of social grace. Now's not really the time or place, I said, turning slightly back toward the bar. Please. I emailed you. Did you get it? She pressed, stepping closer. I need to know you heard me. I need to know you're okay. This was it. The final play. The public bid for redemption. I finally turned to fully face her, my posture relaxed. I got it, I said, my voice calm and clear. She blinked, waiting for more. And nothing. I shrugged, a small, non-hostile smile on my lips. It was an email. I read it. I hope your therapy continues to be helpful. The platitude, delivered with sincere detachment, was a weapon she had no defense against. Her face fell, the mask cracking. That's it. I hope your therapy is helpful. After everything, I bared my soul to you. Just then, a warm hand slipped into mine. I turned. It was Clara, a woman I'd been seeing for a few months. She was a landscape architect, with kind eyes and a quiet, steady confidence. She'd been talking with Lena's parents. Everything all right, Alex? She asked, her voice melodic. She glanced at Sarah with polite curiosity, no recognition in her eyes. Everything's perfect, I said, squeezing her hand. Clara, this is Sarah, an old friend of Lena's. Sarah, this is my girlfriend, Clara. The word girlfriend landed on Sarah like a physical blow. She looked from Clara's serene face to our intertwined hands, and the last shred of her hope disintegrated. She saw it all, the peace in my eyes, the ease of our touch, the life I had built completely without her. It was nice to meet you, Clara said with a genuine, unforced smile. Sarah couldn't even speak. She just gave a jerky nod, her eyes wide with a final, devastating understanding, and stumbled back, disappearing into the crowd. Clara looked up at me. An old friend? The one who didn't need to worry, I said softly. Clara, who knew the broad strokes, simply nodded. Oh. She leaned her head against my shoulder for a moment. Ready to dance? As I led her to the dance floor, under the twinkling lights, I took one last, fleeting look at the spot where Sarah had been. There was nothing. No anger, no pity, no satisfaction. Just the quiet hum of a present moment, full of light and music and a future I was genuinely excited to live. She was a footnote, and I had finally stopped reading the book. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.